we're going to get started soon. We are waiting for our chairperson. Hopefully she'll get here. Just as a reminder, there are yellow cards in the back. There are 2 items on the agenda. One is general public comment, item number 3. That's just in general about the committee work. And item 7 is specifically about the recommendations that the committee is making. So if you're specifically here to talk about a program or school you don't wish to see close, I would note item 7. That would be the item you'd want to speak to. So I don't think we have a vice chairperson. We don't. Do we want? She's here. Oh, is she here? Oh, thank you.
And just as a reminder, for anyone speaking, make sure you're holding the microphone so that it can catch it.
Hello? Okay. Alrighty, it looks like we have quorum, so okay. Let's go ahead and start the meeting. The time is 5:03, today, July 28th. So we'll go ahead and start with the roll call. If you can say present, if you're here. Hillary Baird. Absent. Hazel Wilson.
Present.
Thanks, Hazel. Kimberly Marquez Cortez, present. Tilek Ying.
Present.
Thank you, Tilek. Marnie McKenzie. Absent. Christy Gardner.
Present.
Oh, I know we need more mics. Arshay Miles.
Present.
Sandra Stevens.
Present. She's got one.
Kathleen Salas Tietken.
Present.
Ivana Wheeler. Absent. Okay, so we have our roll call is done. So we'll go ahead and move to item number 3, which is public comments. Looks like we have a full room, so who do I pass this to?
We do have public comment, correct?
Testing, testing, yes.
We have public comment, but not specifically for item 3 thus far, but we're gonna verify the cards. Sorry. We have public comments, but they are thus far designated for item number 7, which is the public hearing. So we have no public comments for the general public comment session for item 3.
Okay. So then we can move into action items, item number 4. So our first action, or only action, is to approve the minutes from the July 7th meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you. And can I get a second?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Tilak. So if I can have us vote. Hillary's absent, right? Okay, sorry. So Hazel, do you vote to approve?
Yes.
Me, I approve the minutes. Tilak?
Yes.
Marnie? Wait, Marnie's absent, right? Christine?
Aye.
Arshay Miles?
I wasn't at the last meeting. Do I abstain? Abstain.
Thank you, one abstention. And then Sandra?
Aye.
And then Kathleen?
Abstain.
2 abstains, and then Yvonne is absent. Perfect. So then we'll move into item number 5, the discussion of data request.
Hi there, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Good evening. It's nice to see you all again. So for this item 5, there was just some additional information that was requested at our second 7-Eleven meeting that we wanted to bring forward to answer some of those questions before you all started to deliberate. So we're going to pull up the PowerPoint slide here. I think you can see it on the other screen in front of you. The first slide is just the same that you saw at the last meeting, but I thought it was important to reiterate the projected and the predictive enrollment for the district, right? Because ultimately, this choice about whether and how schools are closed or consolidated really surrounds the fact that we expect for there to be substantially less enrollment in the coming years. Certainly, there are things that staff is doing to help to correct that to some extent, but we've all come to the conclusion that there's the need to really right size, and so I just thought it was worth showing these numbers, and then again the projections all the way through 2033 about the expected declining enrollment and the need to find some sites that can be closed and or consolidated. On the next slide, one of the questions that was asked at our last meeting was about capacity, and we had gone through some very specific numbers for each of the school sites about their existing capacity. Some were showing like relatively low, right? That like less than a third of the space available at that site was being filled currently. And what the questions that came up are, well, these are great numbers in the abstract, but how do they really relate to other districts in this area? And that's a relatively difficult question to answer because it depends on what numbers you're looking at and for what purpose. But we tried to do kind of a summary or like a survey of certain types of data that does get reported publicly so that we could help to bring you an answer to that question. And the number that we landed on was that through a survey of about 22 schools in the San Francisco Bay Area, those reports indicated that the current amount of capacity at those sites that is being utilized is in the ballpark of 89%. Right. So I think what that shows us is that districts are trying to use as much of their capacity as possible. And that number is, significantly higher than the ones that we've seen for this district in the last meeting. The next question was whether there were legal requirements or recommendations for school capacity. And again, this is kind of a challenging one to give a very clear answer to, in that there really isn't a particular requirement and or like recommendation for how full a certain school site or the entire district should be. The way that we approach this from a legal perspective is we look at particular classroom load capacities, right? So there's a limit number of students that can be within a classroom based on their grade level, and then there's also a like a minimum square footage per student. So when we put those numbers together, we get some guidance as to how full school sites should be. But essentially, as long as districts comply with a certain number of square feet per student, but no more than the designated number of kids per classroom, they're in the clear from a legal perspective. And so the assumption with those two facts, put together is that districts are going to, try to maximize capacity, right? That, like we've said, it doesn't make sense to operate facilities at a very low capacity because you're using resources across sites that could be condensed. And then from the perspective of a recommended capacity, there is also no particular recommendation or best practice. It's just about complying with those standards that I mentioned before. The second piece of information that we wanted to bring you was about site acreage and square footage. So I know there were questions from a real property perspective. How big are these sites, both as far as the buildings on those properties and then the square footage and acreage of the individual sites that we're looking at. And so the slide that you're seeing now has 3 columns. The first one shows the particular square footage of the buildings on each site. The second column shows acreage, and this is based on data that's reported by the county assessor's office. And then the third shows square foot of the land as opposed to just the acreage of the land. Sometimes it's helpful to see that, right, in a different metric to help you get an idea of the actual size. And these have been ordered from least number of square footage to the highest number of square footage to kind of help you absorb, right, what sites are the smallest by land size and what sites are the highest. And that's all of the new information that we had based on the questions at the last meeting. But I'll pause there for a minute in case there's any questions from the committee about this information.
Any questions? No questions from the committee.
Sarah,
Okay,
no question.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no further questions about the data that has been presented, our next step is to move into item 6 on the agenda.
And just so you're aware, there are additional slides in this slide deck, but these are all repeated slides from a prior presentation during the 7-Eleven committee.
So then we move to committee deliberation.
So,
I have a question. Could you explain a bit more about the significance of the bond expenditures that have been listed for the sites?
sure.
Yeah, that's like. So we have some updated numbers here. Stefan, at the last committee meeting, was presented that having about approximately 5 million in construction. We did a walkthrough and updated those numbers. It's actually around $2 million in active projects, so that's an update there. But to give you a little perspective about how bond expenditures impact the improvements, think of it like the money raised through voter-approved bonds like Measure S that were used to improve the property, they kind of stick to that property. So think of those investments. If the district sells it, then some of that money from the sale is treated the same way as the original bond funds. So we either need to place that money from the proceeds of the sale back into an investment into the school district in order to remediate those bonds. So just make sure that we're complying with those bond laws. So at the end of the day, if we were to decide or recommend, and the board did decide to close the school, we would need to remediate those funds. So you either pay them off or you use the sale money for other capital projects. So the bond actually has to be paid off. The debt service that's present on the bond needs to be paid off. So each property has its own situation, depending on how much bond money was used there. If you look at Finney, there's very little bond money that was used there. It would be very likely that we'd be able to sell that and obviously wouldn't have much to remediate, right? So the more money that's invested, the less likely we are to possibly sell the property. So, hope that helps.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay. So we were on item 6, and just to provide a little overview of this item, this is the opportunity for members of the committee to discuss and deliberate regarding the properties that have been assigned and formulate initial findings and recommendations for a draft committee report. I have a template copy of a report without the content really filled in, but I am happy to draft some of those findings on the fly after you have an opportunity to discuss and deliberate. So you may take it away.
Who wants to start us off?
I think, do you want some guidance on this one? Okay. Remember, there's two main asks of this committee. One is to take the 7 schools that were listed and priority rank, essentially, a 1 through 7. If the district needs to close schools, start here, end here, 1 through 7. So that was one ask of this committee. The second request is specifically around those 4 properties and designating them as surplus. So I'll let you decide where you want to begin. I mean, if you want to start with the 4 surplus properties, that might be an easier one to deliberate.
Yeah, I think that seems easier from the understanding that we were given at the last meeting. Designating them as surplus just gives more flexibility to the board to make decisions regarding the campus, but doesn't necessarily indicate that they should be anything that should be, there shouldn't be any particular disposition for the property. It's just that the flexibility is granted to the board to make decisions. So that feels like relatively easy to say, to designate them all as surplus. And I don't know if anybody has any varying thoughts.
Yeah, the only question I have is that I noted in going through and looking at all the potential distribution of students from one school to the other, that Highland will end up, I think, with a significantly greater number of students. And I wonder if there's any significance due to that fact in designating that particular property as excess or surplus. It just seems like that after we've gone through and considered, potential moves, closures, dispositions, whatever, that Highland, since it's the largest facility, logically will end up with more students. And again, I just wonder whether it makes sense to consider that as surplus.
Would you like me to maybe answer or attempt to answer that? The reason we have those 4 schools listed is there are schools we already have that surplus designation. For example, schools you don't see on this list that are being considered for closure and consolidation, like a Stephen Manor or Pennycook, that designation was accepted last school year by the previous 7-11 committee. Highland and Cooper, now that they're part of a closure and consolidation discussion, we wanted to include those as a just in case. If the board goes down the pathway of a closure or consolidation, having that designation then allows us to repurpose or potentially sell or lease those properties.
I see, thank you.
I am concerned that we have schools in all neighborhoods. And that when we make a designation, that we have to consider that neighborhoods consist of different ethnic community members. And the needs are different. And so I have to take that into consideration. Thank you.
I think that touches on the more, like the harder question, right? Which is the rank ordering of the campuses. So, I don't know, I think it would make sense to try to resolve the surplus one, because it seems like it's more of a technical question and less of a fraught question. But I think the rank order is where I think that's really like the hard part of the discussion in terms of like recommending which one of these to close first, I suppose.
And one thing that really bothers me, that I think is very important for consideration, is that we do not want to hurt ourselves in the sense of, I'm hoping that we're doing things such as not just rubber stamping transfers, that we're doing things to retain our students and making our programs attractive. One thing that constantly comes up to me as the education chair for the local chapter of the NAACP is the fact that we have one middle school and two high schools. And it appears that the elementary school students, as they move from elementary to middle school, that is when they tend to leave the district. Could that be a hint that perhaps parents, why would you have Jesse Bethel on one side of town and Vallejo High on the other? But yet they all come from Hogan Middle School, or they leave and go to other middle schools. So I think that we have to also look at things that we may be doing to accelerate this process. I'm a strong supporter of the Vallejo City Unified School District. That's right. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge Ms. Wilson's words, because you've been here a long time, you know what this community needs. And it feels like we're just closing schools, which isn't the full story. We're also trying to build programs that our community would want and choose. But that takes time to do, and it takes enrollment to do, and funding to do. And so I don't want to disregard the potential need for another middle school. I think that is something that could happen in the future. Can it happen tomorrow? Not yet. But it's not something we're disregarding in this process. Having two comprehensive high schools, it would be nice to have two feeder schools. And I know those decisions happened way before my time. And, you know, as we get through and right-size our district and make sure we're providing high-level quality education at all our schools, the ultimate goal is to be whole. Can I just point out, I believe you were given 2 emails? Oh, perfect. So you have 2 committee members who were not able to make it. And I did ask them to email me their recommendations, one for the ranking, 1 through 7, and for the surplus. And since we're talking right now specifically about surplus, so one is from Marnay McKenzie. She is an active member of VEA. And the other is Ivana Wheeler, who is a principal and an active member of VSMA. They both recommend surplus property designation for the 4 properties, just to start that ball rolling for you all. So that's 2 of your members who are recommending the district get the ability to surplus property in the future if needed.
So given the clarification about the effect of the surplus designation as it being essentially giving the district more flexibility in future decisions, I would move that we approve the four properties listed, Federal Terrace, John Finney, Cooper, and Highland. I move that we designate them as surplus.
I would second that.
Okay, we'll do a vote.
Do you want to go, do you want me to call out the names or? would that
No, I
be-
was just trying
you
to
got it?
see the email. I didn't see
If-
that.
if
Should
I
we
may-
read this first?
I wanted to interject really quickly too. We also received one comment from a member of the public, and we have a copy of that. It was sent to Mr. Fernandez. So we have copies here, and we can make extras if any members of the public wish to review that. This individual was unable to be present at the meeting today, but she wished to provide some input. So we just wanted to ensure that you all had
If we
all
could
of the
share that
communications. Sure.
first.
There you go.
I find it interesting that the four properties, are they all located on the west side of town? That's community equity.
I'm not sure. I think some of the ones on the east side of town had already been designated. So, right, Pennycook and Stephen Manor have already been designated as surplus. So, did we want to vote on
Yeah.
the motion?
Okay, so the comments from both Ivana and Marnie are, as was said, that the four sites as surplus for flexibility and repurposing of the sites. So let's go ahead and vote.
And just for clarification, yes, there are the four sites here. We have the 7 listed above. And the ones with the asterisks are the ones that are being considered for the surplus designation. The other ones had already been declared surplus. Stephen Manor, Annie Pennycook, and Lincoln.
Thank you for the clarification. So Hillary, what is your vote for the surplus?
Call me Hillary, my name is Hazel. and I-
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong name.
Go by that name.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong name. I know I was looking at the wrong person. Hillary's absent, I apologize. Hazel.
No,
Kimberly, yes. Tilek,
Yes.
Marnie is absent, sorry. Christy,
Yes.
R. Shay Miles,
No.
Sandra,
Yes?
Kathleen,
Yes.
and Ivana was a yes. Well, Marnie and Ivana were yeses.
Okay, so is that 5,
So-
6?
I count 4 yeses, just to recap. Kimberly, Kimberly,
Tilek,
Tilek, Sandra, and Kat.
Christy was a yes.
Christy is a yes. And then I counted 2 noes, Hazel and Arshay, and we have 2 absent. Is that right?
Okay, and just as a point of clarification, even though that was a majority in favor, this is still a draft report. And so we're formulating the report, or the committee is, with its findings and recommendations. Then it will come back to the 4th and final 7-Eleven committee for the committee to adopt the report. So changes can still be made at that juncture, but we're just trying to have a complete report at this stage for consideration, but still in draft format. No decisions made in terms of a recommendation to the board. until that fourth meeting. Okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll make the note here, at least tentatively, that these would all be listed for surplus.
And then we should move that back to then the ranking. And so we have the emails. So just for the record, Ivana listed Finney, Lincoln, Pennycook, Consolidation, Stephen, Consolidation, Cooper, Highland, and Federal Terrace in that order. Marnie listed Lincoln, John Finney, Pennycook, Federal Terrace, Cooper, Stephen Manor, Highland, in that order. So who wants to start us off here?
I have kind of like a tiers, which are Lincoln, Pennycook, as sort of tier one. I think the easy one is Pennycook to Stephen Manor, one of them closing, and then there's the bond issue with Stephen Manor. And so it feels like Pennycook, that consolidation seems like the easiest question. And of the two, it seems easier to move Pennycook to Stephen rather than Stephen the other way because of the bond issue. And so I feel like it makes sense to put Pennycook high on the list. And then Lincoln. And then my next tier is Federal Finney seems the other, I guess the next kind of almost like tier one. And then Federal Terraces, though my heart moves for them. but it is so underpopulated. And then Highland Cooper, and then Stephen, because the Pennycook kids have to go somewhere. I don't know if somebody else has.
I'm just gonna draft these as we go, but they're all subject to change and modification, if that would be easiest, if you want to see them visually on the
Yeah,
the
like
screen.
if we had a whiteboard, that'd be nice. Like, or just put everybody's, if everybody's got a ranking next to each other. I don't know if that's like a table, a table, something. A way to.
Maybe a spreadsheet, a table, just a
Can you
quick
do a
table with
sheet?
each
Okay.
name.
Do you
and then-
wanna plug in then to the,
Because a table, then visually you can see where
Like, yeah, like each
everyone's
member,
list
and then we can put
is,
in the.
and then you can sort of deliberate that. Because we have the two that are on paper already, you can kind of visually see where those schools fall.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
So we're gonna have you do your list again, probably, so we can capture it.
Just a few moments, I'll put it together.
Okay, we have the table pulled up. Or you could do it in real time. Would you be willing to repeat your?
Yeah, no, sure.
rank
Okay,
order?
so I went Stefan 7, so the lowest on the list, and then Pennycook 1, and then Lincoln 2, Finney 3. Oh no, the next one is Federal Terrace. Federal Terrace 4. And then Finney 3, and Highland and Cooper 5 and 6.
Which way did you want Cooper and Highland?
I think actually I had it that way. But, oh no, I think I had it the other way.
Could I add my thoughts? I think the Pennycook to Stefan makes sense for the first action. So that would be closing Pennycook, leaving Stefan. And I would put Finney second because that is the property, the site, with the most potential for other use, I believe. It has the lowest bond obligation. It's the largest site, and it would be, I think, subject to several different uses. People at Finney, students at Finney would then be able to transfer to Pennycook site, if that made sense. I would put Lincoln 3. It's the smallest school. It has low bond expenditures. The location is also good for an alternate use. It's closer to downtown. It may, make sense for a mixed-use sort of reuse. Cooper, I think, would be number 4. It's smaller than Highland, but it has similar site conditions. And also the Solana Wiedemann could absorb some of the students from that school. Then I would put Federal Terrace as number 5. It seems it would need to close before Highland closed because Federal Terrace is not large enough to accommodate the students that would need to be accommodated at that point. And then number 6, is that where I am? Number 6, I would put Highland and 7 as Stefan. And mainly because those last 2 will have absorbed most of the students from the previous schools that have closed.
I'm just going to give you my ranks, and then we can figure out what we're going to do with them, I think, later. But Stefan, I was 6, number 6. There I am. 6, Pennycook was 3. Lincoln was 1. Lincoln is, I think, a national, or it could be a historical monument, so that's something to consider for future use, I think. Federal Terrace, 7. John Finney, 2. Cooper, 4, and Highland, 5. And with Finney, I mean, there are multiple uses, I think, that we can come up with for that, and it would be nice eventually to have another middle school, and that's a great location.
Okay, so I have my rankings. Pennycook 1, because of the large savings, proximity to Stefan. 2 would be Finney. and that is, I feel like those programs could be moved to other locations and possibly restoring Finney as a middle school for that side of town. Lincoln would be 3, Cooper 4, Highland 5, Stephen 6, Federal Terrace 7.
Okay, well, I'll take the dive next. So for me, Lincoln first, Finney second, for the opportunity for it to turn back into a middle school as it once was. Stephen Manor would be 3, or it could be 2. And I say that because it can be collapsed into Pennycook. It has already proven that Pennycook is a large enough property to house Stephen Manor and Pennycook. When Stephen Manor, unfortunately, had a fire, we had Penny Manor. And I actually worked in facilities at that time in student housing, and we built a temporary Stephen Manor onto Pennycook property, and both schools were housed there, and there were no parking issues, there were no parent issues, and both schools resided on that property with still property to spare and grow. So there's growth for Pennycook land with families and programs. That's why I say that. Unfortunately, there's no growth with Lincoln. That's why I put Lincoln number 1, although it is historic and it's a beautiful property. But if it can't grow with children, maybe it can grow with adults and it becomes offices. That I'm not sure. So 3 would be Stephen. 4, 4 I would put Cooper, because Cooper could fit in Highland, honestly. Highland can grow, Cooper cannot, in that sense. 5 would then be Federal Terrace. Highland, and then Pennycook for me.
Okay, I will do my order then. Excuse me. So Stephen, I have 3. Pennycook 4. Lincoln 1. Federal Terrace 7. Finney 2. Cooper 6. And Highland 5. So Hazel.
Lincoln 2, Federal Terrace 3, Stephen Manor 1, Highland 5, Cooper 6, Pennycook 4, John Finney 7.
Do you want to include the 2 columns for Marnay and for Ivana, since we have those? And then I would suggest we do an average
I
to
was just
see
gonna say that.
where things start to show up, numerically at least.
You want me to read them off?
spreadsheet skills, sir.
Barely in line, right? For the most part. The harder one, I guess, is the stuff that right? I think we're mostly roughly in agreement. I'm curious to see what the averages are. I almost feel like we could put Finney at 1 just because it's like straight 2 across the board, less controversial in terms of the final recommendation.
I think it was, for me, it was interesting, and I wish I had known beforehand what Kathleen was saying about Stefan going to Pennycook, was that?
Mhm.
Because I wasn't aware of that, and I think that having some of that information and knowing that it ran smoothly is also good information to have. So I feel like that kind of makes me rethink some of mine.
And actually, the cement pad that was used to house the office for Stephen Manor, they had their actual own office there. So they had their office and their school with portables at the top of the hill, and Pennycook still stayed at the bottom of the hill with their full school functioning. So there was 2 actual schools functioning on the property. So the cement slab is still there, and there's a small parking lot still at the top of Pennycook's Hill where, you know, there's still wiring there left. I work in maintenance and operations right now. I started in student housing. I've been with this district almost 27 years. So I've watched it move and transform, and I worked on in the first bond with Ms. Wilson in the bond committee. So it's possible, we just have to get creative. And sometimes getting creative is uncomfortable, but there's growth and change. And sometimes we have to look outside the box. And I'm sure if we got a little bit more creative, like with Finney, we need another middle school in order to keep our kids here. And Finney traditionally was Vallejo Middle School. And Finney's programs could possibly move to Vallejo High. There is space there, but, you know, there's also space in other buildings that we have. What does that look like? I love Lincoln. I love the building. I love everything about it. And we still need a school in that side of town, unfortunately, right? I mean, because we don't have Admiral Farragut anymore. So we need Lincoln. The reason why I put Lincoln there is because we already have bus routes going to Highland. So the cost of transportation for those children will take them still to Highland because we have bus routes already. That's why I say Lincoln. But I in my mind, I'm thinking transportation, fuel, personnel. Can they take our children to where they're already going? That's why I say Lincoln. It breaks my heart because it's a beautiful school, and we still need a school on that side of town, but we no longer own Farragut. So that's why I say that.
And I believe, if Coach Wilson's history is correct, when he attended Vallejo Middle School, it was the one building. That building was torn down. And what you see now is the new, updated Vallejo Middle School. And I won't tell you how old he is, but he did attend there, so I'm going to take him at his word.
I was just going to add on to for Pennycook, Stefan. I think one of the issues was the bond that's on Stefan. So if we move the Stefan to Pennycook's direction, it affects budget in a way that it wouldn't. And I'm not sure exactly how that all goes down, but I think that made it less of a coin toss than.
I think one of the things, if we noticed on the bond numbers, those were adjusted. So actually, the Stefan bond dollars came down some. So it's not as great of a issue as it was even the last time we met when we had those numbers. The other thing to always consider, if we do consolidate those 2 schools in either direction, the likelihood that one of those campuses becomes, say, a John Finney is pretty high. So it's going to be used. in some capacity as a school, most likely.
And one other element of the Pennycook Stephan is that Stephan is listed as in better condition than Pennycook. So that, I would think, would play in to the direction of the transfer. I think that makes it more logical to do the Pennycook to Stephan.
Or reduce the cells. There.
So I feel like the Lincoln Pennycook, so I think like there's two ways to approach it, right? In the sense, again, we're not making the decision, we're just putting an ordering in front of the board, right? Is if we put them at like 3 and 4 in the middle, it's effectively saying, you guys decide, we don't have a strong opinion. If we put them at 1 and 7, it means we feel strongly that one of them, this is the one that we should go. So, but like, in all likelihood, one of them is going to go, just because that feels like I'm guessing, the decision, regardless of where we put them, one of those two is probably going to go. Because also you said it's easy to put one of the other programs that gets closed into one of those buildings. So it feels like one of those is not going to be an elementary school, regardless of where we put it. But if we do the 1 and 7, we're saying strongly, this is how we feel. And if we are kind of split, because it does feel like we are kind of split, we can put them right in 3 and 4. And then that's like saying, we don't have a strong opinion or we're split. Board, take it away. I don't know. But it does feel, wait, what are those averages again?
I need to fix the formula real quick. Just give me a few moments.
It did, from what we saw a second ago, it did seem that, like Lincoln and Finney were 1 and 2, basically, in terms of the ranking when you average our across, if those were accurate.
And one thing just for the committee to know, obviously you are not deciding closures of schools. You're providing data, essentially another piece of data to the board. And the board, with the help of staff, is going to continue to look at data and factors, including town halls that we'll have in the communities that would be impacted. All of that information is going to lead towards a decision by the board in December. That is our target. This is step 1 of many to get us there. I always hold that hope that numbers will look different in the fall. More kids are going to show up. Not only are they going to show up, they're going to show up every day and make sure our attendance goes from 89% to 95 or 96%. That difference is about $8 million for the district. We're trying to cut $15.5 million. That's about half, just by getting kids in school every day. I say that because I want the community to hear that. Make sure your kids come to school every day, because that helps us not have to make these types of decisions.
If we take another look, or look at the numbers in a different way, the frequency of the numbers. Finney has a total of 6, number 2. Highland has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 number 5s. Maybe it makes sense to look at it that way, rather than averages. No.
Median?
The frequency. We both know it's not the median.
I mean, ultimately, we'd love to see a consensus, what you can live with. I think T-Lex thought of the Penny Stephan being really a toss-up in some ways. You can leave that for the board, right? If you put it 3 and 4 in the middle, that is the message you're sending to the board, which is, this is it's a coin flip right now. We don't know which direction makes the most sense. You need more information, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I think For the others, the higher or the lower, you know, I see Lincoln up higher. You know, I think Finney's up higher. I think that you almost can think of it as tiers. Your top tier, your middle, and your bottom tier. If it's in the bottom tier, the message you're sending to the board is don't touch these.
And also keep in mind that there is an equity impact analysis report being generated by a third party, and that is also going to be an additional layer of analysis that the board will consider in conjunction with whatever the committee's recommendation is. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware. And if it would make you all feel more comfortable, we can make reference to those component parts in the report itself, that this is taking into consideration the committee's thoughts and evaluation of these various sites, but without having the equity impact analysis before it to help support or, you know, lean you in any potential direction.
So what changed in the formula?
Oh, it was just, there was still some text and set numbers.
Okay, so now those are the
Now we're good.
actual averages now?
Yes.
And I think Sandra does bring up a good point, if I may weigh in, because if we're looking at frequency, we're giving each individual vote the same amount of weight. If we're looking at it as an average, we have to take into account when you have a bunch of ones and a 7, it's obviously going to skew the results slightly. So I don't want to, of course, lead the committee in any particular direction, but I do think that that is something to be considered.
Yeah, I would prefer that we look at the frequency myself, personally. You were gonna say something?
I'll work on
Oh,
that.
no, yeah, I mean, we can do that. I mean, it does feel like this does, like, just the average feels like a relatively decent representation of our conversation, I feel like. In that, like, overall, I mean, we'll see the frequency, I think, but, like, Lincoln has the most ones. Finney is 2 right across the board. If you went with this ordering, you'd come up with, right, Lincoln, then Finney, then Pennycook and Stephen, so they would end up in that middle of, you know, the coin toss in the middle or whatever. So you'd have Lincoln, Finney, Penny, Stephen, and then, then Cooper, Federal Terrace, and Highland, right? Is that right? You know, it seems close to a sort of like a consensus. I don't know if anybody wants to.
I was gonna note too, don't feel like the list has to sit by itself, right? So there's that second portion of the report that has the recommendations where you can explain, right, the thought process, the discussion behind the like ordering of the schools. So you don't have to assume that, right, like because you put 2 schools, you know, like back to back. Like I guess what I'm saying is it's worth providing additional explanation to the board about, say you put, you know, Stephen and Penny at 3 and 4, you're not saying that you would ever want both of them closed. You're saying it's a toss-up as to which one of the 2 you would like recommend for closure. So just use that section for recommendation, I think, to further explain the thought process behind the ordering.
Is there an opportunity if the committee recommends just some background language around the thought process of an additional middle school in the future?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
If the committee, I mean, I've heard a couple of folks talk about middle school, future middle school. If you want to include that in the recommendation, obviously for future recommendations as we right size and close, but that we also consider for future, especially for properties that we're looking at, that it makes sense potentially if we go down the path of a middle school, that maybe that Finney campus makes sense for a middle school down the line. I would put that in the recommendation.
I think that's an important point, because it shows that we have confidence that we're gonna grow.
Exactly.
I believe it. And if we have to show it, we can't just keep closing, closing, closing. And that is the one point that seemed like parents point out, well, I'd like for if they went from elementary to middle, and that seems to be where we're losing the students. Oh, the elementary schools are okay, but then they go to middle, and then you're bringing all communities together. And they want to see them separate. So I think it's a very good opportunity. This could be a very good opportunity for us to look at growth, the future. Thank you.
So if we want to talk about, we're sort of toying with the idea of possibly getting another middle school for growth, then maybe it's at middle school where we think outside the box and have a specialized middle school, like for the arts or for the trades, or in that way because there are a lot of middle schoolers that leave us to go to the arts in San Francisco or in Walnut Creek, and they go to those specialized schools and then sometimes come back to go to Bethel or to go to Vallejo because they want to graduate from Vallejo, but the middle school years, they want to leave. So maybe we create that safe environment, that special environment for them in those quirky years of middle school, right? And we have that space for them in a more concentrated pathway to graduation. And maybe that will get them to stay in our middle school years here in Vallejo.
And also, I think the Finney programs are so important. They are so important. And I don't think consolidating them on Vallejo and Bethel's campus is the answer. Many of the parents and the students are more comfortable in that smaller, more personal environment. And we don't want to lose any of those students. They're all important. And those, the John Finney programs are so important to every community.
And I just remind you all, at the last meeting, towards the end, I gave you sort of my recommendation of this list and where I was leaning. I wouldn't see us closing John Finney program or schools. As much as we could house those programs at either Bethel or Vallejo, I think it's important to have its own space. And so my recommendation to the board is that it would be moved as a whole to one of the other sites, especially if we're closing a school site. Where that landing spot is, that's to be determined.
Does GVRD have all of Franklin?
They do not, but we're in the middle of signing a lease for the classroom buildings.
Okay.
So we are going to be putting in, if all goes well, a non-public school placement, which for us in Vallejo is tremendous because we send our kids further away.
That's
And
right.
that'll keep them here in Vallejo.
So could I suggest to get, kind of begin putting a little bit of order here, following on, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly. Pardon me?
Hazel.
No. You.
Tilek.
Sorry, Tilek, got it. What if we started with Lincoln as number 1, and then did Finney as 2, again with the acknowledgement that there are many possibilities there, including as a middle school. And then the Pennycook Stephan would be 3, 4. And that would bring us down to where we want to put 5. Perhaps, I don't know. Cooper?
Did we want to try to do like the mode or on column L? It's because people said they wanted to see the frequency.
And by the way, you're all deliberating. You can change your numbers. These are not set in
Yeah,
stone.
right.
So if you've been swayed in a certain way, this is your opportunity to rearrange.
I think there's also, what was she saying? About like, adding notation, right? I mean, Finney, it feels like it's high on the list for closure, but we could add a notation saying, try to keep it together. We recommend, although the campus could be reused for some other purpose, we like the idea of it moving to Stephen or Pennycook campus, or kept as a whole on another site, rather than being split amongst the various high schools, right?
And that can be absolutely memorialized in the recommendation section, exactly how you want to have it written.
And I agree with you that I'm fine with that, basically as listed. Lincoln to Finney to Penny to Stephen. And then I think you were saying, well, maybe we just decide on that last one. I mean, as it is there from the average, it would then be Cooper, then Federal Terrace, and then Highland.
Do you want me to type that out into the report? Okay.
Or just.
Or,
Maybe move them in that.
So I heard Lincoln 1, Finney 2, Penny 3, Stephen 4, Cooper 5, Federal Terrace 6, and Highland 7. That's what the average is showing us. I guess I would ask, is there anyone in the committee that can't live with that proposal? And if you can't, this is your time.
I have a quick question. After today's meeting, our next meeting, are we gonna have another deliberation and then final? Because I think for me, it was really helpful last meeting to have folks from Federal Terrace, because that, like, seeing that and hearing from them about transportation, really swayed me to make it number 7 on my list. So I feel like after we hear public hearing, some of that information will really maybe help or sway us. Because I think even just hearing Hazel talk about, like, all of the schools that are being put for surplus are all on one side. Like, visually seeing it and hearing it is all clicking, I think, for me personally.
yes, so in terms of process, we would place these in the rank order into the report, and then we would formulate your recommendations. And then we would open this up to public comment, so members of the public can weigh in. And then the committee can continue to finalize the report and discuss, deliberate. And then it's going to remain in draft format, and the members of the subcommittee will have an opportunity to review that. And then if there's any changes made, those would be brought back at the next 7-Eleven committee meeting before a final report is prepared and recommended to the board. So this is not your last opportunity, of course. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
Nope, that's right. But just to reiterate, so we're just trying to get something on the paper right now as a draft. Then we have the hearing, you're gonna hear from the public, then you have another opportunity at this same meeting tonight to discuss, reorder, and then you have another opportunity again at the 4th meeting to finalize. So don't feel like this is the end all be all right now.
Oh, okay.
Is there specific information regarding transportation that you're requesting, or?
No, I'm personally hoping to hear from people from Lincoln.
Okay.
Because that was something that was mentioned in an earlier meeting, I think it was either the first or second one maybe, about that being like our poorest community, like lowest income. So I think the impact of that, having that be our number 1, is gonna impact a lot of folks, and having that be like a specific community, demographics. And, a lot of what has already been said, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to highlight on that point too, just remember that the equity impact analysis, as we mentioned, is being drafted separately, right? So this input, as far as your recommendation, is just one of many things that the board is going to see in making their decision. And so don't feel like you need to be able to capture the entirety of equity related issues in your recommendation, because the equity impact analysis is going to do that very, very comprehensively. And the board is going to review that in combination with your recommendation. So, for example, one of the things that you heard from Leslie earlier was that you could even make that a part of your recommendation and saying, we're, explicitly telling the board that we didn't see the EIA, but that we'd really like you to make sure that you consider the results of the EIA in your decision in combination with our recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone want to say anything?
So are you at a point where you have your sort of initial draft ready to go, proposal-wise, because that will allow us to move towards public hearing?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, can we sort it by proposal number? And then so everybody can kind of see it like in a list by.
Are you saying like moving column A in the order?
No, I mean like control A, go to data, click sort data. Just sort by that column
L.
L. So that like the numbers are
Yeah.
in order, so it's a little easier to see that.
And while you're doing that, I would like for the committee to be able to formulate its recommendations so that when we do move to public comment, they're gonna see the full scope of what the committee is proposing. So not just rank order, but also actual recommendations in terms of, okay, for example, with Finney, what are you looking to do? Do you want to add in language about the EIA and that you haven't reviewed that for purposes of making that priority list? So all those component parts we would want to pull together to the extent possible and then go into public comment so that members of the public have the full scope of what the committee's recommendations are.
Absolutely. Is anyone ready to share their recommendations on the committee?
What do we have?
I think if I may interject, it'd be helpful to have the rank order
First.
established, and then that will probably help with streamlining the recommendations.
Okay, we have them now visually in the order.
Do you want to hide columns B through K?
What do we have like so far, I think, right? Like we take the recommendation to say, okay, for number one, for Lincoln, we just want to recommend that the board takes into consideration or to
The equity impact
impact
analysis?
Right.
You could be more general. It could be a standalone recommendation that in conjunction with all of the recommendations for closure or movement of certain programs that the board consider the EIA. That way it's more all-encompassing. But then, say, for example, with Lincoln, it could be to close Lincoln and move students to certain sites, or for the board to consider the movement to a particular site or multiple sites. It could be as specific or general as you want to make it. It could be to close Lincoln and move students to Federal Terrace and then focus resources to make Federal Terrace an exemplary school. So, pretty wide-ranging. Would it be helpful if I, in the report itself, in the template that you received, if I type out the priority order and then we can go recommendation by recommendation after that? Okay,
For me, it would.
as you're thinking of potential recommendations to make, okay.
And the other one we had was the Finney, right? Was to say we would like to keep the programs. There was a together, right? For Finney? Or is that not a consensus?
We have recommendations for everything.
Yeah, no, I'm yeah. Do we want to? Do you want to?
Well, I just want to say that I'm probably not that comfortable with formalizing our recommendations without hearing from the community first. So I want to make sure that
And I completely understand and respect that, but I want to remind the committee that this is not all said and done. After you make your tentative recommendations, the members of the public will be able to or say, or share their comment. Then it's going to come back to the committee to decide whether it wants to alter, modify those recommendations. And this is remaining as a draft report. It's going to come back to the committee again at the fourth meeting scheduled for August 11th.
so you're just looking for our initial
Just
thoughts.
tentative.
But even
Yes, the idea was that we want to get some form of recommendations down into a draft report so that the public can see in writing, right, what that initial draft looks like in order to provide solid comments. And then right here tonight at this meeting, once we finish the public hearing, we'll return to this same conversation and the committee will have an opportunity to make changes to those recommendations.
And is this like the only process? We can't just hear from the public first? I'm just curious. To,
I mean, if
to even help
if you
inform
decide as a
our
committee-
tentative recommendations.
If you decide as a committee that you would like to hear from that you'd like to start the public hearing without having even draft recommendations, you can decide by consensus to do that, and we can move forward without even having any recommendations drafted. That's certainly an option. It's just that the reason we've structured it this way is just to give folks in the public something in writing to speak to. But if you all would like to take a vote to move forward, to start the public hearing before you've even formulated any form of recommendations, that's something you can choose to do.
Yeah, I'm okay with doing that vote. And I know you're not here, but there's like a room full of people here that I would love to hear from, honestly. And they've already began submitting their public comments. And yeah, so let's just.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to also ask, so thank you for bringing that up again, Arshay. So then as a committee, we just put it to a vote? Okay. I'm gonna put the attendance. Okay, Hillary's not here. Hazel, do you vote yes to move forward with the public hearing?
Aye.
Kimberly, aye. Tilak?
I'm sure, aye.
Marnie is not here. Christy?
Aye.
Arshay?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Kathleen?
Aye.
Okay, so then we'll move to the next item for today, which is the public hearing, and it is 6:21 when we're starting the public hearing.
So we are going to open the public hearing. I want to just let the audience that's here know if you need Spanish translation, we do have that available. Just let us know, and we can, for any of the comments that are being made. We have cards for people who have submitted cards. How many cards do we have?
Approximately 20.
Okay. So I'm going to leave that to the chair. So typically, at a board meeting, we reserve usually 20 to 30 minutes for public comment. A typical board meeting, we give 3 minutes per speaker. If you give 3 minutes, you're going to listen to an hour at a minimum of public comment. But the committee can decide if you want to make it 2 minutes, 1 minute, or 3 minutes.
So we're saying two? Two? Do we need to put that to a vote? Or
No, you're
it
the,
looks
you're the
like we're-
chairperson. You can,
Okay.
you can decide as a
It
chairperson.
looks like yes, 2 minutes.
Okay,
then.
so for the audience here who submitted cards, you're gonna have 2 minutes for comment. And please try to honor the time so we can get everyone the opportunity.
You can read off the names, Kimberly, as we go.
Okay, so we have Abraham Gonzalez. Abraham Gonzalez. Abraham Gonzalez, are you here?
I would maybe just move
I'll
it to the
put them to the
back
side.
and then,
Yeah.
and if you want to read like 3 of them so they know.
The order, okay.
Yep.
I just went to the Board of Supervisors, okay. Professional now. Charlene Mesa Fry, Rocio Navarro, and Nina Baker. This is our first 3. Are y'all here? Okay.
Well, I'm nervous. This is my first meeting ever. But I just want to say I'm a former student of Federal Terrace. Excuse my nervousness. My whole family is here. Navarro's. You see them. And my mom takes care of her kids. So she lives right in front of the school and she walks her kids to the school. So if this school closes, all cousins are going to different schools, which means who's going to take our kids to school at that point? Is Benicia an option? Some people work in Benicia. Is Napa another option? Because I work in Napa. So attendance is really going down. My kid is not going to be able to walk to school. Maybe she might not have that breakfast that she gets to go in there early. So I understand all schools here are probably going through the same reason, but it's happening often and often. So as a board, what can you guys do to help us not happen this again? It's just transportation. Our kids walk to school. There's a park right in front of that school that we go there on the weekends and they see their friends. They're from the same school. And if you close this down, there's homeless, excuse me for saying this, there's homeless right across the street. This school is going to get vandalized. Our community is going down if this happens. If no traffic, if no cars driving there, that school is down. And this school was made back when the Mare Island used to go, the yard ship was going on. It's a little bit of history there. And I was there in the 2000s as a 5th grader, as well as my sister. So it just, in attendance wise, we always trying to get there. My little girl, she receives the certificates and she's proud of being there every day. So I really hope that, take my consideration. Thanks.
Thank you, Rocio.
My moral support. My name is Charlene Meza Fry, and I've been with Vallejo City School District, hired by Heather, 12 years ago this year. And I've seen a lot in this school district. I've seen a lot of changes. We've been through a lot of problems and ups and downs. I was born and raised in Southern California, in El Monte, like Mr. Elio here. And one thing I always noticed is that it's the commitment of the teachers who help the students and their hard work. No one at my school, at Pennycook Elementary, leaves on the clock. We're always there an hour or 2 hours later. We love our community. We love our students. We are a leader in me school. We are going through our 4th principal in 5 years, and we are resilient. We are tough, and we always bounce back. And now we're getting hit again. But we are going to bounce back because I invite you to come to our school and see how strong we are and see how much our families need us. That they come back to us generation after generation. asking me, are you going to be teaching next year? I want my kid to be in your class. And it's not just me, it's everybody who's with me here. So I ask you to please, before you start rank ordering us by finances, come and see our school. Don't make your decision hastily, because you affect not just the school, you affect the communities and the kids that attend our schools. Please, don't start ripping us apart. We've had enough.
Hi, I'm Nina Baker. I'm a teacher at Federal Terrace and want to speak in support. I'm the early childhood special education teacher with the infants and toddlers in the Exceptional Tots program. And our program has been housed at Federal Terrace for the last 12 or 13 years. We're very well supplied. Everything is set up in that classroom in a way that would be really difficult to move. And the park across the street is beautiful. They just rebuilt that park last year. They put in a whole new playground. A lot of the families do walk from right around that park and the housing in the area and come to our school. I do home visits primarily, and so I'm out driving around town, and I've noticed that a lot of our students who live right on Sacramento Street, close to Federal Terrace, are zoned for Mare Island. All those apartment buildings and kind of low-income housing there, those kids, their school of residence is Mare Island, and I'm not sure why. I've also noticed in the spring at these meetings, the board talked about being good stewards of properties. I'm out driving around town, and the school on Grant is an eyesore. It's completely boarded up. The playground is weeds and fences and graffiti, and that absolutely is what would happen to a lot of these closed schools. I also live in East Vallejo, where the rest of the schools on this list are, and I don't want to see that happening right in my neighborhood either. I just wanted to add, when we're thinking about finances, a lot of our specialists that see my special education students are virtual. So they're hired through agencies, they're providing virtual services. We need additional virtual therapy assistants to be hired, and that's a lot of extra staff and a lot of extra finances that we want to be trying to get people to live and work in this community. And if we have a bunch of boarded up schools, that won't happen. Also, I see infants and toddlers, and their parents have already decided that their kids are going to go to school in Benicia, that they're doing our program because that's the service they're getting, but they've already decided, I don't want my kids to go to school in Vallejo. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Maria Navarro, Mariah Turin, and Rachel Samaniego.
Hello, I'm Maria Navarro. I want to add on to what my sister and as well as a teacher that just came up here add. A lot of us in that side of neighborhood, well, I personally my child belongs to Lincoln. Because of work reasons, my best option was to take her to my mom. You know, for her, she lives right in front of school, just more convenient. And I wouldn't have to leave my child at school at 4 a.m, you know? So for attendance reasons, I made the decision to change her to Federal Terrace. And I love it. I couldn't have chosen a better school. They just did a couple updates on the school. The park had a couple updates. I know a good amount of community members around there that I walk around and I take my kids to school. They're amazing. And to be quite honest, most of them, I want to say 70% of them, walk to that school. For whatever, and I see little kids at 7 a.m. because parents have to leave at 6, 7. They drop them off. And we, as a community, try to keep them and keep an eye on everybody just so they're safe. And, we understand parents have to go to work a little bit earlier. Some have the opportunity to 9 to 5. And sadly, to see it on there as an option to be closed, really, really, really would suck in the aspect that, yes, you guys are going to be moving them to different schools, but it is further away. It's one of the schools that I saw in the PIT documents that is further away to any of the schools. So for the people who don't have maybe buses, or what's gonna happen to those kids? Attendance should be priority, and attendance is gonna be very, very low, because that small community, it is a small school, it is a small community, is gonna have a harder time to even just get their kids to school and to attend to that school. That's just a little something I wanna put out there. Attendance is gonna be a major part of even moving any other kid to any other school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mariah Taryn. My children go to Federal Terrace. I as well work there in the EXLP program. Closing the school honestly would just be so devastating for us. My oldest went there all her elementary school years. My youngest still goes there, and we do walk to school every day. I am a parent with only one vehicle. My husband has the car and he has to drive to work. My means of transportation is walking, as well as the rest of the school. That school is located right in the heart of that whole community. Everybody walks. Everybody's watching each other. And like she said over here, everyone is looking out for each other. There is no other, there's nothing to say about it. It's a perfect school in a perfect neighborhood. Everyone talks about the playground across the street. It is beautiful. They did just redo it, and I love it. My kids can take themselves there, and I don't have to worry about it. And they can take themselves to school, and I don't have to worry. I don't feel scared sending my kids to school, wondering if they caught the bus in time, if they caught the bus home in time. What's going to happen if one of these days one of these kids missed the bus? You're going to send a bus to go pick them up? Parents can't do that. Not everybody can. And closing this school would be a real travesty. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel Samaniego. I'm a teacher of Federal Terrace and also a parent. Federal Terrace is a vital institution that not only serves students, but nurtures the heart of our diverse community. It is more than just a building. It is a space of belonging, growth, and opportunity for children from all walks of life. Our students include those of immigrant families, multilingual households, low-income backgrounds. We are the only school in Vallejo Unified School District that serves from toddlers to 6th grade. And if you're not going to close us down, we will open an infant room. This school does not only educate, it uplifts. Many of our students rely on the accessibility of Federal Terrace, both geographically and socially. Moving them would risk increased travel time, overcrowded classroom, and a loss of personal support system. The potential disruption of their education is not just inconvenient, but it is unjust. For many parents, this school is a lifeline. It is where they feel heard and supported. Closing Federal Terrace would not only dismantle an educational institution, but would send a painful message to families that their children's needs are not a priority. We understand the budgetary and logistical pressures that you face, but we ask you to please view this decision not just through the lens of spreadsheets, but through the lens of the lives it will affect. I and the rest of us here believe in your leadership. We are confident that your leadership is rooted in equity, inclusion, and vision. And we urge you to please keep Federal Terrace open, invest in it, strengthen it, because when you support a school that serves everyone, you support a future that works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Lawrence Hager, Moana Lai Schlemmer, apologies if I mispronounce your name, and Elizabeth Fong.
Okay, I apologize, there's a letter I wrote, but it's relevant. So, good evening, Superintendent Aurelio, committee members. My name's Lawrence Hager. I'm a teacher who's proudly served the students and families of Penny Cook Elementary School for the last 4 years, and our district for over 20 years. I just want to echo what a lot of other people have said, which is it's not just about money, and it's about our communities. And, these schools are located in these communities. Penny Cook is located in a community that's been going to Penny Cook for many generations, and having those having to have those families go somewhere else is going to be very disruptive. In addition to that, as one of your previous committee members mentioned, logistically, it's been demonstrated that Penny Cook makes more sense. Okay, it's a larger campus, the streets are wider, there's more adequate parking, they know it works. And I love Stephan Manor, it's a wonderful school, but the streets are narrow. Parking is very difficult, and logistically, I just don't see that happening. I mean, Penny Cook is a school that's demonstrated to work, and I think that's something that hasn't been taken into consideration. There's also been significant capital improvements made at Penny Cook as well. We had a major HVAC system that cost a lot of money, it was a lot of time, and that was put in every classroom, and that's just one of the capital improvements that was made. Let's see, the other thing is Penny Cook offers two very important programs, the Leader in Me program and the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program. Moving Penny Cook would just most likely end the Leader in Me program, which is a world-renowned program teaching important leadership skills to students. These are skills vital in today's highly competitive world, and uprooting these programs will seriously be detrimental to its success. The other thing is Penny Cook is right next to Hogan Middle School and is partnered with Hogan for site safety concerns and making a smooth transitions for our students to attend the school, which they're promoted from 5th grade. And Hogan has also taken on a Leader in Me program, which our students have shown success with. So for these reasons, I urge you to promote keeping Penny Cook Elementary open for this next transition at our school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Moana Laie Schlemmer. I graduated from Federal Terrace in 2017 and wanted to share with you all the ways Federal Terrace changed my life for good. The first thing I want to note is the student creed I learned while at Federal Terrace, something I learned in kindergarten that has followed me to this very day. It starts off with affirmations for the students, reminding them who they are beyond the images that the world may place on them, by having them refer to themselves as polite, courteous, respectful, responsible, safe, and prepared, allowing themselves to see themselves and each other in a positive light. It then goes on to remind the students what these actions look like, respecting themselves, others, and the environment. But most importantly, it closes by reminding them that they are the future that counts. If it is to be, it is up to me. I can do it. Through my time gaining my degree, these words pushed me to allow myself to do better and reminded me that my future is up to me, which is why I'm here today to fight for the students, to remind them that they're going to be in control of their own futures, fighting to keep an accessible school that remains nearby. I volunteered at Federal Terrace community events, and in those moments, I see all that Vallejo can be. If we were to look at a map of Vallejo with all schools, including charter schools, the closest elementary school to Federal Terrace is Caliber Changemakers Academy, which at minimum, depending on the route, is 1.2 miles away, and maximum 1.8 miles away. If we were to look at only public schools, it would be between Cooper and Lincoln, which is around 2 miles away for both, 1.8 minimum and 2.1 max. While these differences may be small to some, to others it changes the course of our students' futures. Also, I would like to know, in regards to what I've heard about Penny Cook tonight, I think that if we do know that it has the ability to house both schools, I think that rather than thinking purely financial, as someone had mentioned, looking at it as the lens of something affecting our students' futures. And if we know what our students are able to handle and what works for them, I think that we need to take that more into consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
My name is Elizabeth Fong, and I have been a teacher at Pennycook Elementary for 28 years. I have also been a district teacher for 35. I am speaking to you today on behalf of our school and the upsetting recommendation to close us down. I would like to address some key points that should be considered when making this decision. Number one, Pennycook is a multi-generational school. Parents, grandparents, and their children have attended Pennycook School. They keep coming back because they know that we are a community and they love being there. This year, I had the privilege of teaching my former students' children. Number two, our school is secure and safe because we are enclosed on all sides. We have ample parking on all sides of the school, and we are not on a busy street. Number three, a new housing development is being built on Columbus Parkway, and that would be our school area. Number four, we have housed both Stephen and Pennycook on the same campus in the past when Stephen burned down, and we fit because we have a larger campus size, and that didn't seem to be a problem. The fifth point I want to make is that we have been the headquarters for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing program for the county, Solano County, from preschool through upper grades, and it is a crucial part of the community, and we have made them feel like they belong, and that's so important. I would like to thank you for your attention, and I implore you to consider all of our points that are being presented by our community tonight, and we are being supported by our families that are here, our parents that are here, our teachers that are here, our principals that are here, and our retired teachers as well. Thank you.
Next, we have Colette Lai, Diane Flowers, and Laura Iriarte. Sorry.
Hello, my name is Colette Laie. I'm the library media tech at Federal Terrace. First of all, I'm getting emotional because I'm so happy to see how much community came out for our school. That's what we are. We're there for each other's children. I see parents drop off their kids, pick up their kids. I know their cars. I call the student, you know. If Federal Terrace was to close, it would be devastating for the community. At the last meeting that I attended, our principal made a comment, and I think Mr. Is it Ying, last name? I think you may have kind of taken it the wrong way because we were talking about enrollment and why it's declined, and she mentioned Section 8 housing closing in the area, and a lot of our children, they moved. And she said there were younger people moving in that didn't have kids. And I think you kind of took that and run where, okay, well, there's no children around there. As you see tonight, there's children around there for our community. It would be a great loss to our school if you guys decided to give that advice to the school board and shut it down. Federal Terrace is there for everyone. We see the children walking around close to school. If they had to leave and close our school, they're going to cross busy intersections. That's my thing. Sonoma Boulevard. How are you going to have a child cross and they may not have anybody walking them? It would be horrible if Federal Terrace was to close. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Diane Flowers. I am an expanded learning coordinator at Lincoln School. This is Emily. She's also Lincoln. And we both oppose the closing of Lincoln. I've worked with children in lack for decades. I've seen children running through hallways of an elementary school to adults entering prisons or worse, losing their young life through violence. My 18-year-old nephew was one of many whose life was taken. Lincoln School is centered around that demographic of children. I live in that area as well. In my time of working for the children of Lincoln, I've seen progress, improvement, hope. Trust me, that's saying a lot compared to the first year I came there. I encountered third graders not able to read basic words or not contain their behavior in order to be taught. I was told by a teacher that if a child hasn't learned to read by third grade, it's usually downhill from there. I believe that if Lincoln is closed, it will take away from children who may cling to the school for hope. The fact that it is a small school assists with working to build a village that can produce engineers, doctors, teachers, instead of children without hope. A small school can instill in them self-worth so that they will know that they can become productive beings. They need something that gives them that motivation. Talking about attendance, trust me, attendance will be vastly impacted if those children are directed to go to other schools on a bus. So keep Lincoln open, keep hope alive.
Good evening to the school board, admin, teachers, parents, and students. My name is Laura Iriarty. I'm here to talk to you on behalf of Cooper Elementary School. I'm a kindergarten teacher. I'm starting my 7th year at Cooper. I'm on school site council, leadership council, and I'm the PTA parent rep. We have several PTA members, parents, and students here in attendance tonight. And I just wanted to also say something similar, that there are things that your numbers just don't show you about a school and a community. We have a wonderful new principal. We have a new PTA starting their 2nd year that's really going to start building more community in our school. We have a bilingual secretary that supports our students. We have a wonderful lunch staff. The after-school program is phenomenal, and the director, and really they keep those kids busy, having fun, learning, and being supported until their parents are able to pick them up when they get off from school. In our community, we have wonderful staff, parents that are, getting to know each other as years go on. As a kindergarten teacher, I'm seeing my parents who are forming friendships in kindergarten as they're moving through the years. Those students are staying friends, those parents are staying friends, and it's just continuing to build the community at our school. We also did absorb another school last year when they were having a plumbing issue. Facilities-wise, we have new playground equipment on both of our playgrounds. We have some new picnic benches that were put in this year, and we also had new air conditioning updated. And curriculum, we're implementing U-Fly school-wide this year. We had a new art class last year, starting music classes as well as art this year. We have Hey Tutors, several teachers that teach intervention after school. We have had no neighborhood safety issues. In conclusion, I just want to say that I just feel Cooper really deserves to continue as a school. We've got a great community there, and we need to keep them together and building the community that they have instead of being divided and losing all of that. Thank you all very much.
Next, we have Alan Manuel, Nancy Maldonado, and I think this is Polly McCall. Okay. So then the third person will be Anna Aris.
Good evening. My name is Polly McCall, and in this is a long time ago, 1970, I came to Vallejo to teach. And I taught at Pennycook School and Cooper School. I came back to Pennycook, and for 20 years was the principal there. I still live in the Pennycook community, so you can tell I'm a little biased on that point. First of all, though, I feel it incumbent upon me to go along with what Hazel said earlier. neighborhood schools make all the difference in the world. And if you want to talk about behavior issues or things that are going on, having kids connected, having them at a neighborhood school makes all the difference in the world. Lincoln School has a very special place in my heart. And so I think the downtown kids deserve a second look. I do. And having been the principal at Pennycook when Stephen Manor was there, you figure we had probably 1,400 kids there at any one time. And if you haven't been out towards Pennycook, we have a huge field. And does it take cooperation? Well, yes, I think Mr. Goldbranson and I would say it does. But it takes teachers and it takes parents, but that's at every school. And I would just, I know finances, and like I said, I spent 20 years as a principal in this school district, and I'm still an active community member. And I think some of the lenses, it's like you just can't do just the finance and the passion of people who spoke tonight. Bravo for advocating for your schools.
Hello, my name is Nancy Maldonado, and I'm the Expanded Learning Program Coordinator at Federal Terrace. But I'm also a parent of 2 children that attend Federal Terrace. We understand all the challenges we're facing today, but as parents, we're deeply concerned about the implications that this will have for the future and education of our children. All of our children walk to school, including my own children. That is very helpful to me, and also to a lot of parents that I see here from our neighborhood. We have to work. We all have to work. And having our children walk to the school, I feel that our neighborhood is very safe. That's why I have my own children walking to school. I don't want to see my kids walking through Sonoma Boulevard trying to get to their school. I don't want to see that. I don't feel safe. And I don't feel that my kids are going to be safe. I feel like something's going to happen to them. Our school is the only elementary school that we have on that side of the city and serves kinder through 6th grade. And we'll be serving TK students again for the coming school year. It also offers childcare. It offers expanded learning programs. And we, Expanded Learning at Federal Terrace, we recently incorporated a sports league program. Both our students and parents, they enjoyed, and they engage. When we were having or basketballs games or soccer games, and they are hoping to get this opportunity again to participate at Federal Terrace. Also, Federal Terrace offers special education classes as a mindfulness program, which is part of the school mental health resource for students. And that is very important to a lot of students and parents. And it's very helpful to our community. And then if you decide to close Federal Terrace, you will bring instability to our families. They'll be struggling with time and transportation. Please remember that our school is not just a building. Our school, it's the heart of your community and our neighborhood. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Erche, and I am a parent of speaking in defense of Federal Terrace. Then I have just enrolled my 3-year-old in TK there. Then he'll be just starting. He hasn't set foot in the school yet, but he knows literally dozens of kids who are students there currently, who he knows by name and they know him by name, just from spending time at that playground across the street from the school. It is the heart of our community. All the kids, and they know each other. They live right next to each other. They all walk together then, and they all are, sorry, this is a big thing for me then. I bought my house back when I didn't have kids then, but I sat in that park and felt the neighborhood. And I knew that I wanted my kids to grow up like the kids there, because Federal Terrace is doing an amazing job. And I say that as a parent who hasn't even actually started going there. My kids don't even go there yet. And my kids have to walk to school. Then we have one car, and it's being used for work. So, and was sent as the representative of a playgroup of 5 families in the neighborhood. None of us have more than one car, and all of their kids have to walk to school. We have no other option. Then it's a 5-minute walk around the park to get to the school. It is safe. There are no big streets. But if the next nearest school is also actually being considered to be closed, and it's a 40-minute walk. A 40-minute walk for a 4-year-old. That's too much. You can't expect, and that's crossing Sonoma Boulevard. That's not safe. And I know that myself and the other parents then who aren't even going there yet, if Federal Terrace is closed, we will be taking our kids elsewhere. Because it's not safe to expect families with young kids crossing Sonoma Boulevard. And our families, they all walk to school. It is the heart of our community, and they are amazing. And this is said by someone who hasn't actually worked with them yet. That Federal Terrace is a really special place. Please keep it open.
Next, we have Miss Robinson, Annie Gammon, and Brenda Garcia.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? Come on now. I'm Miss Robinson, okay, and I'm from Pennycook, all right? I needed to see some smiles because it's a little dry in here. It really is. It's a little dry. I've listened to you all, and let me put it out here first of all. We understand money, okay? So blah, drop that on the ground. We understand money. You've got a task in front of you, Superintendent, and we understand that it's a big task. Your board has a task. But at the end of the day, it's not even about the money, the task. It's really about the babies. It's really about them. We're losing children every day to districts. And as you said, ma'am, so eloquently, we need to figure out how to keep them here. I listen to my parents. Day in and day out, I've had the blessing of working with some amazing principals and amazing admin. I've got to work at Cooper with people that sit on your board now. I've been blessed to go over and work at Pennycook for the last 6 years now. Combo class, 5th and 6th grade. Amazing staff over there. Now, the one thing that stands out for Pennycook, among everything else that you heard about all the wonderful schools, including the historical value of Lincoln, in the 1800s being built, yes, you're right. You should do something to keep that honored. You're right. I agree. But what can you do, right? What does that look like? So you've got that task. But here's the thing. Pennycook is a leader in me school. Now, you should be scratching your head and saying, well, what does that mean? We're teaching our children how to be leaders when they become where you are. We're teaching them how to have leadership skills. We're building that on the foundation of Franklin Covey and the fundamentals of what it means to be a leader. They understand that. They take that to the next grade level. They take that to the next school. So when you consider the shuffle and the move and the domino game, consider this. Consider putting people together, because that's my time. Consider putting people together. Consider what it would look like. Consider what it would be if you had a school in every area that could help your students grow and help the family stay here. That's the goal, a school in each area. If you got to put us together, put us together. But remember, Pennycook is a leader in me school. We breed leaders, okay? All right.
I am Amy Gammon. I moved here in 2018 with my 1-year-old. I was honestly nervous about the Vallejo School District. I looked at the scores. I was a little scared, but I've been pleasantly surprised, especially with my my friend and both my sons' kindergarten teacher, Miss Iriarty, who already spoke. Also, Miss Brenda, who's next. She's been amazing too at the after-school program. So come to realize that between the teachers, the staff, and after-school program, they really do care and are super invested in the kids. I am part of the PTA. My kids go to the after-school program, and that now has sports teams, which is even more cool because we get to see kids in in the other schools, and, everybody's making friends. One thing I just realized, I looked on the map, and on Google Maps, Cooper is pretty much by itself up in the top of Vallejo. That's a lot of kids in that one area, and I've noticed through the 4 years that we've been, or 3 years that we've been there, that a lot of these kids walk. Tuolumne's not the safest street, but there's a lot of slower streets over there too. So a lot of people walk, a lot of people are dependent on that not having a car. Class sizes are already big, so if we were to add more, why? And why are we losing kids? Is it just because people aren't moving to Vallejo? Maybe we should focus on making Vallejo better instead of closing schools.
Hi, my name is Brenda Garcia. I'm the site coordinator for expanded learning at Cooper Elementary. This was my first year. I'm bilingual. My kids went to Cooper. My two oldest, my youngest one went to Loma Vista, and my youngest one is now one of the teacher assistants for childcare at Cooper Elementary. I'm a very proud parent of kids that went to the Vallejo School District. Now that I took on this role, I've been taking it very serious to build more community in our Cooper school. I plan a lot of events to bring in the parents, because after COVID, we lost a lot of parent communication. I work really hard with our principal. I'm in the ELAC, I'm in the PTA, I'm involved with the IP, the care team at our school, because I like to bring that information to all my parents in English and Spanish, because sometimes we forget that. I'm working really hard. I don't have the knowledge that you guys have with all the numbers, the money that we need. But it's sad to see all of us standing here fighting to see what school we close, what school we keep open. But nobody has thought about our kids, everybody in here. What are you guys gonna do to our kids when you close that community school, that neighborhood school? What stress are we gonna put our kids through? Transporting them to the other side of town where they don't know, they don't feel safe. Sadly, we're in a world that our kids are going through a lot of different mental health problems. And sometimes we don't take that into consideration. So I ask of you to please take that into consideration. We're all a big family. Vallejo City Unified School District is a family. I'm not only here to defend Cooper, I'm here for you guys to really take this and think about our kids. You are pushing our kids into all those charter schools. When you guys put out that message on Parent Square that you're closing down Cooper, Lincoln, all those schools, my phone started ringing. Miss Brenda, do I take my kids to Elite, MIT? Please think about that. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Veronica Garcia, Sue Kelly, and then Abraham Gonzalez, if he's here.
Hello, I'm Veronica, and I'm a parent of a student at Cooper Elementary. He's now going into second grade. He's actually here with me because I want him involved and to know what was going on in our community. Like she had mentioned that before she had children, she looked at the schools around where they were choosing their home, and that's exactly what I did. The community, the school, I live on the next block of Cooper. We walk to school, we know the kids that go to the school, we see them at the grocery store, at the parks, and we're just a big family. Cooper staff, principal, the parents, they're all amazing, and that is my village. And we take care of each other. And it'll be sad to let that school go. I think our children deserve a chance to be where they are. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sue Kelly, the principal of Lincoln Elementary. And I've been reading through the documents for this committee. I know that you are tasked with a really, really difficult decision. I know that the decision needs to be made. Lincoln is number one on the list. But the numbers don't tell the whole story of Lincoln. we are the smallest school. We are a TK through third grade school. In the documents, it says we're TK through 2. We're moving from 70 students to 100 students. This last year was my first year, and I was chosen to be the principal of Lincoln based on my drive for literacy. And when I entered Lincoln, I had a vision of a literacy academy, and we started that this year. We were chosen for the LC-RSET grant, and were able to hire a reading specialist. Along with that, I hired, using CSI funds, a veteran teacher for reading intervention. And we've built this foundation for literacy. And we're not where we want to be yet. We need more time. But our students, for the first time in a long time, those second grade students, saw themselves as students this year. They grew leaps and bounds with their literacy scores. And I just hope we get to continue to be open so that they can continue with that momentum with the literacy. And our school is unique because we're based in a community that has the most need. And we can't forget that. Even though we're the smallest school, we are the most needy school. And we've made changes, and I invite all of you to come and see what we're doing and see what those students are doing. Thank you.
Is Sue Kelly here? Oh. I was like, my bad. Abraham? No? Okay, so I'm gonna move him. And then, Char?
Hello, everybody. I'm a grandparent, and my grandchild attends Cooper. My kids attended Cooper. They came out good. I have one in law, military, and food service. 4.0, 3.8. I have a problem with how this came about. I found out about the closure. Somebody called me on Friday and said, hey, Parent Square, you need to be here. Look at the closure they're having. I think if you had got this out to the people in the neighborhood, posted somewhere, this is what we plan to do with these schools and shut them down, you probably would have had a better turnout. This affects the community. When you read deep into this, it's not just about closing the Cooper. They want to sell it or reuse it for something else to put into that school. But that's a problem because it's not coming out clear and you're not thinking this through. And with Trump in office, you know this is the wrong time to be making any kind of move. So what I got to say here to you guys here is we need to sit and think this through. You're going to bust these kids. For one thing, they said it was going to be bus from Cooper to Stephen Manor, but it's closing on the board. How are you going to get these kids from A to B when there's no bus system as it is in Vallejo? Are you going to improve this? So we can go back to the city district and ask them, are y'all going to fix this? It's broken already. So you're closing down old Vallejo schools to do what? We got all these charter schools that popped up that took from your schools. Not to mention that there's a lot of schools already out here. They got issues. Fix them. If you're going to do this before you even get these parents all upset, worried about how they're going to do this, how they're going to work, Cooper does provide an after-school program and a before program, but those got to go to work. It's convenient to hit that freeway to get where you got to go. Now, you're not telling nobody here, when I close this school down here tentatively, everyone's on here, where are their babies going to? Yeah. I think that it's unjust how you do this. You should think it really through. Take yourselves over there if you haven't been in that community and see what's really happening. It's not right. It's not right how it's going down. It's unfair to all of our schools in the old section of Vallejo to be shut down.
Thank you, community, for sharing in the public hearing. It looks like the hearing closed at 7:12. And we're moving to item number 8, the review, where the committee will modify or otherwise adjust the findings and recommendations for the draft committee report.
So you have an opportunity to sort of discuss, deliberate, make any further recommendations or changes to the recommendation.
As far as ordering goes, does anybody have a input or opinion or want to change the draft order? I mean, I'd say I was somewhat persuaded by the turnout for Pennycook. I mean, I don't mind at least. I mean, I think roughly where the logic still stands as far as like it's a coin toss or close to it between the two of them. But I don't mind putting Stephen Manor above Pennycook. As far as Federal Terrace go, I think it was really heartwarming to see so many people coming out for it. I mean, it really shows a strong sense of community in that school. But they're already at the bottom, or almost there. So I don't know if there's necessarily a change to the ordering that would would make in response to that. I don't know if other people had thoughts, or did you want to put something? Also, the notes. We have that. We have that item as well to discuss.
I'd suggest that for now, we leave the ranking B and think on it for a while. Since it's draft, we can think about any changes next time we meet. And maybe it makes sense to move on to develop our recommendations.
Hazel.
I would really like to thank the community and the public for coming and showing your support for the Vallejo City Unified School District, because it is on the right path. And we have to work together to fix our problems and not fight each other, but work together. And we're going to make it, and it's going to be stronger. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to thank you as well. I do have a question in terms of the moving on to recommendations before we move on to that. The recommendations are based on the ranking, but are we able to also inform like what's in the equity report, equity impact analysis? And I know we've seen the list there, but are we also able to, I just made some notes, but, staff, the impact on staffing, things like that, are we able to make recommendations for that impact analysis as well?
Certainly, you can include whatever recommendations you want to guide the process. I will say, though, that the third party that is developing the equity impact analysis, they have those various factors that they're going to analyze. I'm sure that information can be shared.
Sarah, can you silence your mic?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Get a little feedback there. This is your opportunity to present whatever recommendations you want in here. This is more so directed to the school board, I will say, because the team that is developing the EIA, that they have their various metrics that they're going to be analyzing objectively to also inform the board as well. But if there are certain things that you want the third party to look at, we can certainly include that.
Okay.
But timing is going to play into this as well, because that is currently in motion.
And those specific things that the equity impact analysis, those are driven by the Assembly Bill 1912, which is why we have to do an equity impact analysis. So it's very specific, the items they have to look for.
Okay. And I just bring it up because based on the public comments, there was a lot of things that were being elevated that are not reflected in this,
Right.
this framework.
And I do want to, if I can, and I appreciate that the community is here. I love that, and I want to see community involvement in everything we do. But I just want to clarify a couple things I heard this evening, just to clarify that. When we close schools or consolidate schools, we don't overcrowd classrooms. Classroom sizes, those are driven by contract language. More kids doesn't mean you're having more kids in each classroom. So just to clear that up. And we have programs at all our schools. We have expanded learning programs. We have a lot of the same programs at many of our schools. Pennycook does do a Leader in Me, but so does Solano Wiedemann. So we do have programs like that, not singular programs at schools. But it is all taken into consideration. And I appreciate it, so the community coming out, I just want to clarify, this is not the school board. Because I heard that a couple times. You are not the school board. Now, in the future, you might want to be a school board member, and that maybe that time will come. Christy, I know you probably don't want to do that anymore, or Hazel, because you've done that already. You have all committed to being on this committee, and I appreciate the work you're doing, because hearing those voices, that's hard. It's really hard to hear that, because I wish we weren't doing this. This is not something I wanted to sign up to do. But it's something that we must do to make sure, as a whole, as a district, not just in singular school, we're moving in the right direction and we're serving all kids. But it is a painful process. I'm not going to question that.
I was also going to note that the equity impact analysis will be brought back to the board at a series of public meetings. So it's not that document's going to be created in a vacuum and then brought to the board in final form. The statute requires that a first draft be brought, that we receive comments, and that we show how those comments have been integrated into the final version of the EIA. So to the extent that there are particular comments or concerns or suggestions about the EIA, I really think those public meetings that are focused specifically on commenting on that draft once it's been made available would be the best place for those to be directed.
And really, the committee is tasked with providing the recommendations to the board. But my point earlier was to say that you can certainly voice any concerns or items that you want to be brought into consideration. Whether that's going to drive the EIA development, I can't say, because I'm not writing it, but I'm sure that they're taking into account all of this information. And again, as Sarah noted, there's going to be multiple opportunities for members of the public to raise concerns after they even see the draft report. That's going to further inform the board's analysis and ultimate decision making on that.
I wanted to maybe take one moment, because I don't know if everyone had a chance to read the public hearing that was printed out for us, and if that should also be like either read out or something.
The public comment.
The public
Public
comment.
comment.
We could read it out, that's fine. Does anyone want to volunteer, or I'm happy to as well? Either way.
Please.
I just need a copy. All right. This was in the form of an email that was sent to Mr. Ruben Fernandez, and it's from Sharice Wan. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And it says, I am messaging you because I am unable to attend the public hearing at the 7-11 committee meeting on July 28th, 2025, and wish to provide some input for the committee to consider regarding Federal Terrace Elementary School. I initially worked at Federal Terrace as the district speech and language pathologist during the 2017-2018 school year under Principal Marisa Carbonell, whom I'm copying on this message to you. At that time, Federal Terrace had 2 autism, special day classes, and child development center classes housed on their campus, along with grades kindergarten to 5th grade. During the 2019-2020 school year, Principal Carbonell graciously provided me with a workspace to conduct preschool speech assessments for the district. I continued to work out of the Federal Terrace campus after transitioning from district-wide preschool assessment to providing speech therapy services to the Exceptional Tots, which is the early start infant toddler program, and the moderate severe special day classes on the campus. For the coming 2025-26 school year, Federal Terrace will continue to house the Child Development Center classes, general education at the TK to 6th grade level, the Exceptional Tots program, and 3 special day classes that will span TK through 5th grade. Federal Terrace also provides after-school care to the students via the Encore program. I am requesting that the 7-Eleven committee recommend keeping Federal Terrace open because it is a vibrant and diverse campus. Several of the general education grades have made strides with gains with increased test scores in the math and ELA arena. We have a caring staff that ranges from our classified personnel, e.g. our office manager, media specialist, mental health provider, ASP, paraeducators, and student nutrition assistant, to name a few, along with our certificated staff. Our special education team has worked well together. I look forward to resuming our collaboration this coming school year to benefit our special education students per the goals and objectives developed on their individualized family service plans or individualized education programs. Thanks in advance for the challenging work the 7-Eleven committee members are doing to address budget issues as well as declining enrollment, and for considering my input to keep Federal Terrace open by not shuttering the school or listing it as surplus property. I personally experienced the upheaval and morale loss when Elsa Wiedemann Elementary School closed to merge onto the Solano Middle School campus during the spring of 2019. It was terribly upsetting to all involved, students, parents, guardians, staff, and community members. Sincerely, Sharice Wan.
Thank you for reading that public comment. So there was, I would say like a motion put forth to move past the ranking, but how are the rest of the committee members? Because I personally would want to change one of mine, but how are folks feeling?
Do you want to vocalize how you would like to change the ranking? Because I know Mr. Yang had already shared he might be inclined to move, was it Stefan and Pennycook?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same, swap 3 and 4. Or actually, I think it would be to move Pennycook to 4, and then Lincoln down as well. Yeah. So I would have John Finney, but keeping it, my recommendation then would be to have John Finney as a whole move if, to whatever site. And then, if that wasn't an option, then Lincoln to close. And then Stefan, then Pennycook, Cooper. And this is just the order of that I'm ranking.
Yeah, I like that.
Are you just referring to your personal recommendations or the overall list?
I guess the overall list.
Can you repeat that?
So swapping 1 and 2, and swapping 3 and 4.
So Finney, Lincoln, Stephen Manor, Pennycook, Cooper, Federal, and Highland.
Yeah.
How would the programs at Finney be accommodated if they were moved to 1?
Move to, so if Finney were to move to Lincoln, is that, no?
If Finney were to move to number 1 on the list, to be the first one,
Well, remember that this is a recommendation about if we had to close or change these programs. So for staff, so my recommendation to the board around Finney wouldn't be to close Finney. It would be to move Finney because all those different dominoes that need to take place because of the campus at Finney being a campus we could potentially do something with.
But for example, one of the recommendations could be to relocate Finney to another site, such as Cooper, Pennycook, whatever the case, but then to also consider the potential disposition of the Finney site to generate revenue for the district. So it's kind of a two-part. It's not gonna necessarily affect the order per se, but that would
Right,
just be.
I guess my
built
question
into the
was more,
recommendation.
is there capacity? If Finney is moved to the top of the list, doesn't that imply that something has to happen with the students or in those programs? And does the district have capacity at other facilities to effectively manage those programs?
We do have capacity.
Yeah, I think I would then say my recommendation would be to move Finney as a whole to possibly like Federal Terrace, for example, that has the capacity to hold the 360 students.
My only caution there is now you're taking an elementary school that's a toddler through 6th grade and putting an alternative high school on that campus. I probably wouldn't go that direction.
Yeah, I think, yeah. It would be like Stefan, and then, right, it would be something like, I do have one other question though, is what is the likelihood, like it feels like very strongly likely that one of these is gonna end up closing, right? At least one of these is going to end up closing?
So at the
Or then,
last
like,
meeting, if
beyond
you
that?
remember, because people always ask me, how many schools are gonna close? I can't give you an exact number, but considering where we're at size-wise as a district and the trends of continuing to decline, to right-size this district, we have room to close schools. When we did the capacity last year, we were at 46% capacity as a school district, serving 9,600 students. I mean, this district was built for 23,000 plus. That's what it was once, if not more. And it's sad what has happened to the community and to these schools, but housing, at least last year, was 20 campuses. That included the adult school for 9,600 students. That's spreading our resources really thin. We want quality schools in every school building. So right now, as I mentioned in the last meeting, I would be leaning towards 3 schools. And partly I say that because I don't want to be back at this table next year doing this again.
So yeah, in some sense, it's like they're probably going to both be closed. Like, I mean, like number 1, 2, and 3 are probably all going to be closed. Not necessarily in that order, but something like that, right?
Now remember, I'm just one person, just the superintendent, and it's a board that ultimately makes the decision.
Yeah, I like the idea of, I mean, this is still a draft. We still have time to revise on future meetings. I'm happy with, at least for the next printed version, to have Finney, Lincoln, just to indicate, and then Stefan, and then Pennycook. But I'm also okay, since we are gonna revisit it, if there's a strong lack of desire to put them in that order. But we should get down our notes for anything we want to add, so that can be added to the draft for our next meeting, right? Yes? Am I wrong?
Yeah, ideally, any notes you want to include, you have those at least documented, because then I believe T-LEC and Kim, you're both the subcommittee that I'll be working with Sarah to make sure you're gonna get a draft version and you'll make sure it's accurate, so when it comes back at the 4th meeting, then we'll review again.
But we do want to try to build in as many of our recommendations in this draft, just so that it's going to go to the subcommittees for further review and then come back. So we don't want to have too many loose ends there. Understanding, though, that nothing is set in stone.
Yeah, I think we should put down whatever notes we can. Yeah, we
Is
should
it-
put in whatever notes we can this time around, so that we can look at it on paper.
And I'm actually okay with leaving the order as is. I would love to take my community up on their offer in terms of visiting these campuses. But, and moving on with the recommendations.
Okay. Any other comments?
I would agree with what you just said. I think we should leave the order as it is. There's such minor differences between some of the rationales, I guess, that I think we've got this. It's as good as it's going to get, I think, today. It may get better tomorrow. So,
I feel then, I would want to at least see like 3 and 4, because my recommendation would be then, if Pennycook has a history of already absorbing Stephen, then Stephen going to Pennycook would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think like physically the numbers were, the square footage was similar, but the overall land, the Pennycook is bigger. And I know those are the two closest to me. Like those are two campuses that I pass many times a week. As far as like parking, stuff with parking, but that's another issue. Yeah, I mean I think it's kind of okay. I'm okay with changing them so Pennycook is below Stephen Manor, but we can revisit it next time.
My suggestion is just simply to leave them like they are, because we're getting into minutia, and we're not going to be the final deciders on this. The board will. So I think for now, and again, if we think on it and come back, we have another chance to reevaluate.
And again, with the equity impact analysis, they're going to be looking at things like transportation and receptor school sites and things of that sort that are going to get into the minutia as, you know, as you're referencing. So that might help in terms of the Stephen Manor Pennycook distinction.
Well, so we should at least get our notes down though. Do we want to go with them in order, just like down the list? Any notes that we'd like to add or?
Yeah, it would help me though if we first determine the rank order, and if the committee is good with it as is, or if you want to propose at least the alternative that you suggested, and then once we have that, then we can go through the various recommendations in order.
So Sandra made the motion to keep the rank, so then let's go ahead and just vote on that. So Hazel, do you vote aye?
I'd switch Pennycook and Stephen Manor.
Kimberly, I would want to see that switch too. Tilak,
Yeah, I would say make the switch too.
The question was, do we want to keep it, right?
Yeah.
So it's either A or yeah or nay, right? Okay, so,
Yes.
so next we have Christy.
keep it, yes.
Arshay Miles,
keep it.
so good. Sandra,
Keep it.
Kathleen,
So the motion is to switch it or keep that
that's to
order?
keep it.
If you want to switch it, then you have to say nay.
Yeah, so we have 2 nays so far,
So no,
so 3 nays.
I would like to switch Pennycook and Stephen.
So we're at 3 to 4. So to keep. I said nays. One. Oh, 4. Okay.
So it sounds like you want to
switch.
switch 3 and 4 as a consensus, or hopefully get to that consensus. Is that, how about we do it this way? Is it a thumbs up, switch 3, 4, thumbs down?
Switch 3 and 4.
All right, we're switching 3 and 4.
I think it does make a difference, but we're going to revisit it next week. I know it's like a little bit of minutia, but I think this is one place where maybe we can make a little bit of a difference, at least a push, you know? I think it's, I don't know. I don't know anything, but it feels like Lincoln and Finney are stronger, and Stephen and Pennycook are easier to swap. So making a statement from us in the ordering may have some impact. So I feel moderately strong putting it in that order. It'll be the board's decision, but this is one place where we maybe have a little bit of voice. So I think that it's worth using it.
And it's the purpose why we're here, right? So, yeah, so what are the recommendations? Do you want to?
And just for logical order, I think it might make sense to go in the order that they're ranked with your recommendations. So we would start with Lincoln.
So is there any recommendation for Lincoln on top, besides having it be number one in the rank? Any notes you want to include with Lincoln?
If they're having success with the literacy program there, and we could move that group of students to another site and keep that program.
So trying to keep the program whole.
Correct.
Any other recommendations for Lincoln?
Well, I was going to say, is the most likely, I was looking at all the different scenarios, is the most likely for Lincoln students to mostly go to Federal Terrace? Is that what would happen if Federal Terrace doesn't get closed?
Either Federal Terrace, it also could be Highland. Right now, we currently bus students from the Lincoln area to Highland. So last year was 3rd, 4th, 5th graders who were going to Highland, who live in the Lincoln area. We grew 3rd grade this coming year, so now it's only 4th and 5th graders who are being bused to Highland. So either it can absorb all of those students at Highland, or it could also potentially go towards Federal Terrace.
And we don't have to be super set in terms of where those students go. Again, it's going to be affected by the equity impact analysis, but we could say and move the students to Federal Terrace, comma, Highland, comma, or other sites, and keep it a little bit more open-ended. It's completely within the discretion of the committee.
Yeah, you don't have that task to.
We don't have that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's nice to have some language about attending to the equity impact analysis and noting that we didn't have, that report wasn't in front of us. So I think that'd be a nice thing to include in there.
Yes, absolutely. And I have some verbiage that I can include, and it will be its own standalone recommendation. I'll probably put it toward the end, just so that we're hitting on all the sites first substantively, and then we'll address that.
So the second site on the ranked list is John Finney? Oh.
Really quickly, just for closed Lincoln Elementary and move students, do you want to list out Federal Terrace, Highland, or other sites, or do you want to keep it more general?
I mean, I think it could, what we were presented in terms of options was Federal Terrace, Highland, and Cooper. So those are like the only ones that were in my mind.
But I want to honor Christie's comment about the program, the literacy program, ideally staying together.
Right, and we can add that absolutely to the recommendation. It's just the movement of the students, if we want to articulate that on there, in addition to the literacy component.
I don't really think it matters where the students go. I mean, it's going to be to whatever the equity impact study. I think that's a board's decision, but I think what's important is to keep the literacy program intact.
Out of curiosity and as a question, not as a suggestion, but when it comes down to it, if Lincoln does close, it'll also be like the families will be involved in where they end up going, right? Or they'll have some.
Yeah, there'll be some choice involved for that.
Are we good with how number 1 looks? Do I have to put it to vote each one, or no? Okay.
No, and you're not voting right now on this. We're capturing all of this. Remember, this is draft form, so you're not going to vote on this until the next meeting. So this is just getting the draft down. So if we move to number 2, that's the John Finney Education Complex. Is there anything we want to add to the recommendations there?
We want to capture the potential for the middle school revival, right?
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, so we're wanting to be careful with our language and not say close Finney. We're going to say relocate the John Finney.
Is that the
Educational
consensus?
Complex program.
Keep the program
Want to say that to the mic?
Relocate the programs together.
Then I had a question regarding all this middle school stuff is, what is the percent capacity for our middle school now? Any idea? I'm just curious.
Yeah, that one I can't pull out of the air, sorry.
And then, no, I think noting for the potential of a middle school.
And for the potential of the middle school at that current site?
At the former.
At
It would
the
be- It
former.
would be at the former John Finney, former Vallejo Middle. What else has it been?
It's been Vallejo High Academy,
Ninth Grade Academy, it's been a couple different.
different things.
How does that look? Relocate the John Finney Education Complex programs to another site and in consideration of the former Finney site for use as a middle school.
I would, only
Are
word I
there
would,
other options? Sorry, I was just gonna know, are there other options for reconsideration of the site? Or do you want the board to exclusively consider it for a middle school?
For example, disposition to generate revenue or something else.
I would say, with the idea that has been presented about growing Vallejo, I personally would think, as a middle school, if it would mean bringing in, keeping students in Vallejo.
so it's total word choice, I would add the word future. Because I feel like it's saying it that way means like it's gonna happen tomorrow, might not happen tomorrow. I think it should probably, for future growth or
Sure.
something like that.
And one other point of clarification, I think this piggybacks on what Sarah was saying, is to keep it a little bit more open-ended for the board's consideration, is the thought behind a future middle school only exclusively being at the Finney complex site? Or could it be somewhere else that would allow for the disposition of the site to generate more income or revenue for the district?
The community. I live in that neighborhood. The community, it would be attractive with the fact that they may start filling our elementary schools on that side of town. If it would be attractive and a draw. So a future, what the superintendent said, I think that, and it would have to be studied and everything. We're not saying that it's gonna happen tomorrow. But we definitely want to make it attractive and to consider it honestly. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anything else for Finney on this one? Okay.
So next is Stephen Manor, I believe. Right, because you all switched 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So any recommendations for Stephen or even Pennycook, thinking they're kind of together?
Yeah, I would say Stephen to Pennycook, like moving the students from Stephen to Pennycook, if that was to be closed. Close Stephen, move students to Pennycook.
Probably should state to repurpose Stephen Manor with the possibility of keeping programs together, whether that be Finney or whether that be, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Mhm.
to repurpose.
Call it out as a potential site for the Finney programs.
Finney programs or, because I was also thinking about John Finney complex as it stands, that can also be repurposed as an income for renting out like a PD center and or, community, allowing communities to come in with use permits and renting that property out as a PD center or function.
I was just gonna note too, for the committee to remember that Finney is like relatively unique, that site. in that we didn't have a whole lot of bond funds spent there. And so it is really one of the only sites available to help to generate revenue. Whereas some of the other sites that could be closed could be an alternative and maybe more attractive option for relocation of Finney or for housing a middle school, some other, right, like district use that isn't impacted by the expenditure of bond funds.
If Stefan theoretically were to be reused for the Finney programs, would that mitigate the bond or the hanging bond issue that was there?
The investments that we put
So,
in.
so likely, the bond restrictions just require that it be a public use. So as long as it's an educational, instructional use, there may even be, certain uses beyond direct instruction that would be okay. But yes, the relocation of those programs would likely be a non-issue with a site where bond funds have been expended. The real kind of, gold is sites where we haven't spent bond funds that are open for disposition.
Okay, so then after Stefan and Penny, the next one was at Cooper? I'm trying to remember now. Yeah, 'cause it's Cooper, Federal, then Highland.
I think a real big effort for all three of those would be to build up their enrollment as community schools. And because all of them are where the kids could walk to school and all the positives about a community school. And I don't know whether throughout the year, whether we do anything to invite the community in, to let them know. I guess what I'm saying, we have to sell them. Not sell the schools.
No, marketing.
But marketing, yes, marketing. And I think that's very important now because we have charter schools, et cetera, who are the competition. And we need to sell the positives. I know Vallejo High School is centering their marketing around C.C. Sabathia, and who would not? So the marketing is going to be very important for us to do for every school.
So maybe that can be a suggestion for Lincoln, is if it is the consolidation of Lincoln to Federal and their literacy program for TK to third grade, that program stays together and is housed at Federal. It's just a thought. So that specific program, with its success, can move then to Federal because they can house that amount of students from 60 to 70 students. That program can then stay intact.
I think there's one silver lining when you talk about like marketing these schools is that a more full school with some of the consolidations is a more appealing school than a school that's 60% empty. As a parent, I think it's nicer to see. I mean, you don't want it to be overfull, but it is nicer to see a school that is being fully utilized rather than a few extremely underutilized schools.
And right now, we're not in danger of any of our schools being overfull.
No. Programs we have some wonderful programs at the school. We have to market them. We have to market them. I know some schools may, if you have to pay tuition and stuff, they may be in trouble. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it could be. And if you have programs and you're market them.
I just wanted to comment real quick. I don't want to take too much of the time, but as the comms director in charge of marketing and communications, we are marketing these schools. We are marketing all the progress that we are having, all the good things that are going on. So I don't want the committee to think that that's not happening, because it is every single day.
Can I ask where? Like where that's
All,
like, but I mean, like, is it because I work at a nonprofit, and we've started using like social media and things like that to try to get some of the young adult folks, but our like 90% of how people find us is word of mouth. So like, are we knocking on people's door? Because I live in the area that I live, I had no idea about the schools that were going on. Like some of the programs that I'm hearing today, I had no idea that was a thing. I have a student that goes to is in a special program for autism, and so like we're moving to wherever because there's no space. So like that's something in my mind, like there's not enough funding for some of these programs. It would be nice to hear more like, oh, you know, some of the programs that do exist, like hearing about them. Like this was the first time I heard about the, I'm sorry if I wrote this wrong, but the Deaf and Learning program? Hard of Hearing. Yeah, I had no idea that was there. And if that's the unique, like that's something that should definitely be broadcast. So that was my question.
it's definitely being broadcast a couple different ways. So we have our website. You might have gotten in the mail. We had a state of the district that was mailed to every taxpayer or every household in Vallejo. We have a newsletter. There's a lot of different things, but we can chat after. I don't want to veer us off.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that you're not doing your job, but we may need to have community open houses. We got to think outside the box. We've got to think outside the box.
I made a few edits just based on what I was hearing, not written in stone, but just wanted to share this. So for Lincoln, I put close Lincoln Elementary with Lincoln students consolidating to Federal Terrace and keep the literacy program intact, i.e. moved to Federal Terrace. Focus resources to make Federal Terrace an exemplary and desirable school. Is that in alignment with the committee's thoughts? Okay. Okay, so number 2, we have relocate the John Finney Education Complex programs to another district school site and consider the former Finney site for use as a future middle school. And then for number 3, we have close Stephen Manor and consolidate Stephen Manor and Pennycook students at Pennycook Elementary School. Also repurpose Stephen Manor for other district programs or uses. Is that also in alignment with the committee's thoughts? Okay, very good. Okay, and then as you're all discussing, I did add in this final recommendation. We still have a few more to go. In combination with considering this report and the findings and recommendations included herein, we recommend the board consider the results of the equity impact analysis being prepared to evaluate impacts related to the various potential closure and or relocation of the district's properties or of the district properties. Is that okay?
I think the only thing potentially missing is something related to Cooper, Federal, and Highland.
Correct.
And it could be singular, one recommendation about those 3, since there's the bottom end of the ranking. Because remember the task. The task was rank them 1 to 7. If we have to close schools, start here and here. Not saying we're going to close 7 schools, but.
Right. So next would be Cooper.
I'm wondering if the ones that are on the lower end, if we could say anything to go with what you're saying, Hazel, is these are all community schools that really focus I mean, we all have community schools, but if they want to remain a community school, to really figure out, think outside the box, and figure out how they can start selling their schools as a community school, and somehow put that in the verbiage here, that their effort may make a difference. It may keep them open in the long run, is kind of what I'm trying to get at. Does that make any sense at all? It's late.
No, it makes sense. We can, again, articulate whatever you want to include in here that you want the board to consider, and that certainly is a consideration. We still need to, though, address the Cooper Highland.
Right.
I was thinking,
Maybe something like encouraging Cooper and Highland to increase marketing themselves as neighborhood schools. Or having a focus on marketing them as neighborhood or community schools.
The one caveat I would say is that this is being directed to the board in terms of recommendations for the board to make, whereas if we're marketing, obviously we want to drive up enrollment and try to keep students within your district. That is an
And that is
absolute
a
priority.
goal we all want.
We all want it. So I think it goes without saying, we all want that.
Right.
That's more of grassroots effort and something that everybody would band together to do. But this is more directed toward the board in terms of what you're
Maybe-
recommending.
I also see your recommendations articulating why you ranked the schools the way you did. So why is Cooper fifth? Why is Federal Terrace sixth and then Highland seventh? That's what the board's gonna want to know from you all, is why did you put these schools where you did?
Maybe we could say something like, it's, I don't know, just words. It's become obvious that Cooper and Highland are very strong community neighborhood schools. And we would encourage the board to assist those school communities in increasing awareness of their programs and potential.
So that's your explanation of why it's fifth and seventh on your ranking.
You recommend that the board can,
I was just gonna say that this is probably a much larger discussion, which is more of the partnership between the school district as well as the city, having that type of conversation, because when we're talking about marketing our community, it really takes more than just the school district to do that, in terms of schools and things like that. When you go on niche.com, you see that they're ranking our city as a C- because of various things, and walkability, schools, so forth, housing are all in there. And so I think this is great that we're talking about Cooper and Highland. I'm a Cooper Cougar myself. So that's great, but it's a much larger conversation when we're talking about sustainability and making sure that we don't go down this road again.
And I agree with that. I just want to make sure we're capturing the reasoning behind 1 through 7.
yeah, I was gonna say we can, and also acknowledging the community aspects of it was just something about the geographic location, because I think that played into our decision regarding Cooper, Highland, and Federal Terrace, right? That they play a particular role given their location geographically within the city, and the students who are able to, locate, walk or, otherwise commute to the school without using busing or other forms of transportation or something like that. But something along those lines, right? Neighborhood schools, and so that's why we put those lower on the list, or that contributes to why we put them lower on the list, because of their physical location. And
And I was just gonna note too, don't forget that the EIA, like one of the like critical components they're studying is transportation and proximity for students to walk or to otherwise get to school, and how that would be impacted by closure or consolidation.
So I was just gonna say that about Federal Terrace. It's the walkability, the transportation portion for them. So I would hope that we could reconsider number 1, the verbiage for desirable school. Federal Terrace is already a desirable school because of its community, its networking, and its accessibility for those that do not have transportation. We're saying that we're trying to make it an exemplary and desirable school. It is a desirable school. We're not giving it credit by saying those last 3 words. I realize it's verbiage, but
Maybe focus resources to support it
to support
as an exemplary and desirable.
yes. We just had all those community members come and say how amazing it is, and it is an amazing school.
My apologies.
That's
Is that
okay.
better? The difference a few words can make,
A
right?
few words can make a lot.
Okay, focus resources to support Federal Terrace as an exemplary and desirable school. Okay.
And then I think we need to add something about Federal Terrace too with respect to its location.
Would that go for number 5?
Or I
You
could
switch.
build it into number 1 because it's still reflecting movement of Lincoln students to federal.
I think we're talking about why we ranked Federal
Yeah,
Terrace number
right.
6. So having that be like the 5th recommendation.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Could we might need to tighten this one up because I was just kind of taking notes as everyone was speaking. But the committee recognizes that Cooper Elementary and Highland Elementary are strong community schools, and we recommend that the board consider increasing awareness of those schools and the programs they offer to students. I was just attempting to articulate why these schools are lower on the list, but we can, of course, modify that if you
And
want to
maybe
leave
we
it as
call
is.
out
Or
for number 5, specifically Federal Terrace because of its unique location, unique geographic location, and also its strength as a community neighborhood school.
And proximity to the park that I think many of the people from Federal Terrace mentioned. And it is a nice park. I've been to that park. I don't live anywhere near there, but I've been to that park. We can throw that in there.
But we combined, number 4 talks about both Cooper and Highland, so that's why it's 1 recommendation. And then I think for number 4, you took off the sentence, but I think it made sense to keep, for me, I think it made sense to keep that was one of the reasons, was the geographic location as well. For Cooper and Highland.
Yeah, all 3 of them share the geographical.
is that satisfactory? These schools were lower on the list of recommended closures due to their geographic location. Do you want to say anything more specific than that?
I'm okay with that. Other committee members?
Okay.
Okay.
So we have 6 recommendations. Do you want to go through them one by one, or are we all satisfied with?
I feel
The
like
content.
as we were going.
I
through
was
this,
just
I'm good.
gonna ask, sorry, from a procedural perspective, there's one additional recommendation that I would recommend that the committee consider. And that is, so the law currently, the education code requires that if the board does decide to sell or to lease a site, they have to do so to the highest bidder at a public meeting. And there is an alternative process where the district can submit a waiver of those requirements, and that lets the board consider other factors, like, you know, looking at alternative uses or, you know, like multiple offers that may not be the highest price, but could have a community benefit, could look at, you know, like whether or not the person that is bidding on the site can actually make what they're saying happen on the site. So with the additional recommendation that I would suggest that you consider incorporating is an ability for the board to use the process of getting a waiver of the education code so that they can consider factors outside of just the highest price for the property, if they decide to dispose of any, right? So you're not saying that they have to or that they even should dispose of any property, but if they decide to sell or lease any sites, it gives them the ability to look at things outside of just the highest price.
Yeah, I think that's a
Thank you, Sarah.
great suggestion. I think something along the lines of, we'd like them to consider the value to the community as a whole, but beyond its, you know, monetary value, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement then.
And what I'm doing is gonna capture that a little bit more broadly, so it keeps it more flexible for the board.
Okay, so are we then done with item number 8, review? And we can move on to the meeting schedule. Our next meeting number 4 is August 11th. Tell everybody, tell your friends, community, come out, wherever you are. And it'll be the presentation of committee report. Regular board meeting is scheduled for August 20th. Show up to that for sure. And so I need a motion, if there's nothing else for number 9, I need a motion from our committee.
I was just gonna describe before you take a motion, what will happen between now and the next meeting, just so everyone's really clear from a procedural perspective. Right, so we are gonna finalize these draft recommendations and the draft order and essentially the draft of the report that you've worked on tonight. And then that's going to be sent to our subcommittee of the 2 individuals that were elected to kind of dig into the report further. You both will have time to review that report and then send a red line or comments or, you know, additional suggestions back to the district between now and the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, we will talk about any changes that were suggested by the subcommittee and then any additional thoughts or changes by the committee as a whole. And then you will vote on the content of the report so that it can be finalized. Once that happens, we'll have the chairperson sign the report, and then essentially the second task at the next meeting will just be discussing logistics for presentation of the report to the board on the 20th. So maybe start thinking about, do you, as a committee member, want to be there during the board meeting on the 20th to help present some component of the report? Because we'll want to receive feedback about exactly what that presentation of the report is going to look like on the 20th.
Thank you.
Any questions with the procedural side of things? Okay.
I do have one question. Is it too late to be included in that process? Like we have 2 people, is it too late to like nominate myself for that?
Yeah, so we can't take action at the meeting because it hasn't been agendized, right? We agendized the election of the subcommittee at a prior meeting, and not knowing that there would be interest in taking action again, it's not something we can do at this particular meeting now.
Then we can move on. Thank you. So who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting at 8:11. Thank you.
And I would love to second that.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Sandra. So then let's go ahead and take a vote. Hazel?
Aye.
Perfect. Kimberly, aye. Tilek?
Aye.
Christy,
Aye.
Arshay Mile,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Kathleen.
Aye.
So it passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We are officially adjourned.